The Seven Flags of the New Orleans Tri-centennial is an exhibit of rare manuscripts, letters, documents, books, broadsides, and newspapers that has been prepared for public exhibit by students from the Loyola University Honors Program. The exhibit, which is part of the New Orleans Tri-centennial celebration of 2018, is now on display at the New Orleans Jazz Museum, located on the third floor of the New Orleans Mint in the French Quarter. Each of the exhibited flags, along with the corresponding primary sources, mark the 7 transitions of New Orleans governance in its 300-year history. The first phase of New Orleans governance began with its founding in the spring of 1718 by Jean-Baptiste Le Moyne Bienville. The French flag that he and others would raise over New Orleans for the next 45 years was a simplified version of King Philip II's fleur-de-lis pattern on a dark blue background that the king first used on his cloaks and banners. It was Charles V in 1365 who changed the 150-year-old flag to the familiar 3 fleur-de-lis on the dark blue background to honor the Holy Trinity. The documents that have been curated for this French period that lasted until 1762 include signed documents by the Sun King and Louisiana namesake Louis XIV, Chancellor Pontchartrain, Philippe II, Duke of Orleans, the namesake of New Orleans, Louis XV, and a 1751 map indicating both British and French colonial territories in North America. Loyola honor student Maddie Mulder, class of 21, chose to research and curate a 1720 3-page manuscript signed by the Duke of Orleans and King Louis XV, legitimizing Elizabeth Lists, which may be a woman's rights first for the Kingdom of France. In 1762, in the Treaty of Fontainebleau, France ceded Louisiana and New Orleans to Spain as a result of losing the 7 Years' War. The Spanish flag of governance over New Orleans consisted of a red jagged-edged X superimposed on a white background, which was commonly called the St. Andrew's Cross. This flag was designed around the tradition that Andrew the Disciple was crucified on 2 small trees that were roughly hacked off, creating the jagged edges, which trunks were then tied together to make his cross. The primary sources that are curated and researched for this 38-year period of Spanish governance over New Orleans include a 1788 newspaper account of the Great Fire, letters signed by both Joseph and Bernardo Galvez, 1780 and 1781 Spanish magazine accounts of Revolutionary War conquests of Governor Galvez, King Charles III and King Charles IV of Spain manuscripts, and a 1763 map of Spanish North America. Loyola honor student Wang Tran, class of 21, has chosen to research and curate the accounts of the 1788 Great New Orleans Fire, asking the important question: is the French Quarter really the Spanish Quarter? The governance of New Orleans changed again when French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte, hoping to reestablish an empire in North America, acquired Louisiana and New Orleans with the Third Treaty of San Ildefonso. Although the treaty was concluded on October 1, 1800, Spanish officials did not formally convey the colonial lands and the New Orleans administration to France until November 30, 1803. It was only then that the current French tricolor flag, featuring 3 vertical bands, colored blue on the hoist side, white in the middle, and red on the outside, was flown over the city of New Orleans. Primary sources researched, curated, and exhibited under the French period include Thomas Jefferson's 1801 message to Congress concerning the Convention of 1800 between France and the United States, a Napoleon Bonaparte letter, and the rare 1803 congressional printing of the Louisiana Purchase. The United States of America took possession of the Louisiana Territory and the city of New Orleans from France on December 20th, 1803. The United States flag that was hoisted up the pole during the official New Orleans ceremony had 15 stars and stripes, as mandated by the Flag Act of January 13, 1794, that was signed into law by then-President George Washington. New Orleans will remain under the governance of the United States for the next 58 years. The primary sources exhibited, researched, and curated during this period include Governor Claiborne's 1803 proclamation to the citizens of Louisiana, the Congressional June 6, 1812 Declaration of War, an 1814 Treaty of Ghent printing, the Congressional Resolution of 1815 awarding General Jackson a gold medal, the Louisiana Legislature Battle of New Orleans Proclamation, the 1835 Act creating the New Orleans Mint, Edward Livingston's letter, an 1825 printing of his Louisiana Penal Code, and the New Orleans True Delta, December 27, 1860 printing of South Carolina's secession. Loyola Honors student Richard Fell, class of 20, chose to research the legislation surrounding Congress awarding a gold medal to Andrew Jackson for his defense of New Orleans, which was a battle that occurred after the war was already over. 1861 began with New Orleans under the flag of the United States of America. On January 26, 1861, however, Louisiana decided to secede from the Union. The Republic of Louisiana adopted its own flag on February 11, 1861, with a square canton and 13-striped design. The canton was red with a single yellow star which replicated the colors of the Spanish flag. The stripes alternated blue, white, red, white, blue, white, red, white, blue, white, red, white, blue, replicating the colors of the French flag. This Republic of Louisiana flag is disputed by some scholars that maintain it was just another state flag because the government of the Confederate States of America was organized on February 4, 1861. Other scholars rightly point out that Louisiana did not ratify the Confederate States Constitution until March 21, 1861. Therefore, Louisiana remained an independent republic from January 26, 1861 until March 21, 1861, and this flag was its national symbol. The first Confederate States of America flag was adopted on March 4, 1861. It was designed with 3 horizontal stripes of equal height, alternating red and white, with a blue square 2/3 the height of the flag as the canton. Inside the canton were 7 white 5-pointed stars of equal size, arranged in a circle and pointing outward. Artifacts researched, curated, and exhibited during these 2 different periods of New Orleans governance include an 1861 New Orleans minted $50, a February 10, 1861 New York Herald newspaper account of the seizure of the New Orleans Mint, the 1861 acts of the Louisiana legislature, and a March 19, 1861 New York Tribune printing of the Confederate States of America's Constitution. Honor student Hannah Littlefield, class of 21, chose to research and curate the 1861 $50 and its minting in New Orleans, first by the United States of America, second by the Republic of Louisiana, and third by the Confederate States of America, noting that a $50 from the last minting recently sold for over $900,000. On April 25, 1862, Union forces under Admiral David Farragut captured and occupied New Orleans, Louisiana. The Confederate States of America's Stars and Bars flag was removed and replaced with the United States flag that had 34 stars and stripes. This flag flew over New Orleans until July 3, 1863, when a star was added for the newly created state of West Virginia. Today, the United States flag, adopted on July 4, 1960, with the admission of Hawaii, still flies over New Orleans with its 50 stars and stripes. The primary sources curated and exhibited for this transition of the New Orleans governance includes President Lincoln's message to Congress concerning Admiral Farragut's capture of New Orleans, Benjamin F. Butler, the Beast of New Orleans, general orders, book, and even a letter. In 1864, St. Charles Theater playbill featuring John Wilkes Booth in New Orleans. In 1865, Secret Service broadside, a William T. Sherman Special Orders manuscript issued in New Orleans after the assassination of President Lincoln, a Harper's Weekly account of the New Orleans riot, along with the 14th Amendment ratification by the Louisiana legislature. Honor student Alex Christian Lucas, class of 20, focused his curation and research around the claim that John Wilkes Booth, the assassin of President Abraham Lincoln, was recruited and trained as a Confederate Secret Service agent in the 3 weeks he spent here in New Orleans in 1864. Honor student Brittany Jardina, class of 21, focused her research and curation around the New Orleans riot of July 30th, 1866. The Flags of New Orleans Tri-centennial exhibit runs through May 1st at the Jazz Museum of New Orleans and at Loyola University on the first floor of the Monroe Library through December 31st, 2018. Parts of the exhibit can also be viewed online at www.orleans300.com. On behalf of the Loyola University Honors Program, National Collegiate Honors Council President Dr. Naomi Yavna-Close is pleased to extend to the New Orleans Jazz Museum the gifts of the exhibited 1919 Edison record titled "Take Me to the Land of Jazz," with the flip side, "Dixie is Dixie Once More," the Victor Records catalog of 1924, and a Nat King Cole note card signature. Thank you, Director Greg Lambusi, for hosting our Loyola University Honors exhibit, The Seven Flags of the New Orleans Tri-centennial, at the New Orleans Jazz Museum. This is Stanley Yavna-Close for the Loyola University Honors Program.